You want to be a young boss, but your sales are stuck. You're burned out trying to find the right people, and you end up doing all of the work yourself. You're bleeding money, and you're fighting to keep your business afloat. I've been there. I'm Isabel Guarino, and I've scaled businesses to millions, and I've watched ideas burn to the ground. And I know exactly what it takes to survive and win. This is Young Boss, the podcast that helps you break through the barriers standing between you and the business you deserve, where youth is your power. What happens when a young entrepreneur trades fear for impact and goes from selling his first business to running a licensed group home that changes lives? Today, I'm chatting with Arthur Hairston, founder of Strive Youth and Family Services. We're talking about the unfiltered side of building and selling companies, government contracts, massive regulations, and why nobody tells you how to actually scale a group home. From walking away from a rocky partnership to running a business with his wife and handling $75,000 months, Arthur shares the real numbers, the hard lessons, and why purpose matters more than profit. Stay tuned. This is an episode you won't forget. Welcome to the show, Arthur. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, so we are both kind of in the group housing world, but totally different angles. So tell us a little bit more about your business and what you do and why you got into it.
So I own Strive Youth and Family Services. We are a licensed group home with our Department of Children and Families. We specifically look to take in kids in the foster care system with autism or developmental delays. Our kids range currently from ages 5 to 15. As long as they're a good fit with each other, then that's okay to have, the age range.
Wow, that's amazing. And you got started in the world of autism with another business before this, right?
Yes, I did. I used to have a applied behavior analysis business prior to doing the group home.
And what kind of got you interested in helping children with autism?
Background in special education, going to school for undergrad and master's. So just seeing that in what I was doing in my day-to-day, and then also had opportunity to work in a group home for a short period of time and really see the needs.
And the initial business you started, you actually exited that, am I right?
Yes, I was able to exit that, and that is why I have this business. I tell anybody,
that's really cool.
I tell everybody all the time, without the last business, I might not have this right now.
Wow. So let's talk about that, because I think that you might be the first person who we've now had on the show who has successfully created a business and then sold it. So what did that process look like financially, emotionally? I mean, it's a lot to build something and then say, okay, let's package it up and offload it.
Emotionally, it is very hard because you're going through the whole process of merger and acquisition. So you have this thing called due diligence, where they look at everything. I tell people it's like going to the doctor, taking off your clothes, and the doctor's just staring at you. It's very uncomfortable because
that's a great way to explain it.
They look at everything. So financial wise, you see all the mistakes that you made from the beginning until the time that they looked at it. And then just emotional too is you really can't say anything to your employees, no matter how close you are to them. It's in the contract, everybody's staying quiet, don't say anything at all. So it kind of hurts to know soon this is gonna, be somebody else. You want to say something, but you can't. So that's very emotional because I was attached to the people that work for me.
Financially, how did that look? Was it worth it?
Financially, it got me out of a place. I tell people all the time that the first business, I didn't have the glorious, hundreds of millions of dollar exits. It was something just to get me, cover some bills, but it's nothing super special. But I never wanted to close and just leave people without a job. That was my biggest concern is I wanted to make sure people still had jobs. Whether they stayed afterwards, that's on them. But you just decide one day to shut down, which I see in the industry that I'm in all the time. People shut down and people are just searching for jobs. I never wanted that because your name is all you have, and I don't want that
Yeah,
attached to me.
it's true. It's true. Okay, so then now you switched into group housing with serving the same population, more or less.
Yes.
But why this shift? Is there, how does this look different and how are you, able to serve the children now?
So back in 2017 through like 2019, I was working in a group home. So I always said I wanted to have the group home. I just didn't know how was I going to afford it, because there's definitely going the license route. There's a big financial commitment. So it was easy to switch into it. And we actually start this off with somebody. Things didn't go exactly how they should. So that's kind of forced another pivot of actually me selling too, and the need to get more involved than what I was.
Was
So
that like an administrator or a business partner?
I'll say business partner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, business partner slash was friend.
Oh, listen, friends and family business can go sour quick. And I love that. That's my bread and butter. But we all know that it doesn't always turn out the way that we want it to, unfortunately.
Yeah, lesson learned.
Okay, so you made this pivot and now you own and operate just one group home or how many?
We have one. We're working on the second one now, just getting it together, like fire sprinklers, fire alarm. That's the biggest thing with going the license route is having those regulations with zoning and your licensing
Yep.
agency.
Okay, so in the senior housing space, we're also licensed, group homes. We're limited to, in Arizona, 10 residents in a home. Do you have any limitation on how many kids can live in the home?
So if you go past six, then your zoning laws change. So for the house we had anyway, it made sense that we can be zoned for up to six. We do have land, so I've always, tell my wife every day, who's my other business partner, I say, we're going to eventually, build on the land and we'll just build it to house, up to 14 because that's the max that we could go up to.
Okay. How are you finding the children who need these services and how do they pay for this? Because that's always been my big question about getting into, developmentally disabled adults or children. How do you make those numbers work?
I like knowing where the money's coming from. That's why I'm not really in sales per se because I like to know guaranteed, this is, what's going to come. So how it works here in Florida and a few other states, you have, of course, your licensing agency, whether it's Department of Children and Families or some people call it Department of Family and Children. So you'll contract with them, but then the money is kind of trickled down to lead agencies that are overseeing counties or cities. So you're reaching out to them and let them know this is what I do, this is who I serve, and you have your daily rates that you, it is what it is, and either they have the kids you want or they don't. So when you start out in the beginning, I was very fortunate to have a friend that told me to take in kids with autism because originally that was not who we were taking in, and we actually closed within 2 months of opening. It just didn't work out. We were taking more at-risk kids, so these were kids that were in danger of going to Department of like Juvenile Justice, or some have been out of that. So when we switched or pivot and took in kids with autism, the referrals that were coming in were more aligned with what we were prepared, at least who I was prepared to work with, or even train the staff to work with.
So from the child's perspective, how does this work? This is someone who are their parents alive? Their parents can't take care of them anymore? Like what is their life looking like at this point?
It's a mix of both. Our first kid always, say he's our success story. When we reopened, he didn't have any family. Both family members that he had passed away. So you have a kid coming in, doesn't really talk, and you don't really know how he is emotionally because he can't express himself and say he's sad. Maybe you have moments of anger. He could tell he's upset, but never
Yeah.
they can never physically tell. A lot of the kids that come to us are nonverbal, so they can't tell us how they feel. We do get some kids that come in that can speak. But it's kind of like they come in, they don't really talk about it, which is why we always look to get counseling when needed so they can talk to somebody because holding that in, you need to talk to somebody about it, even if you don't want to talk to us and express, like, hey, I'm upset, I'm not with my family. But kids come into care because they don't have any family members. Maybe their family is in jail, prison, drug rehab program. Maybe their parents have just disappeared. It happens, you know.
Mm.
Parents just leave the kid there, or let the kid just walk out the house, and when they the kid returns, no parent there.
Mm. It's a very emotional business. And I'm sure for you as an owner, hearing these stories and meeting these kids has to break your heart sometimes.
It does, and because I'm so involved, like I know all the kids, they know me, so it's kind of sad when they do leave. You know, that's our ultimate goal is for them to either be adopted, go back to where they came from with a family member, or there's another licensing agency that's for the kids that's long term, which is on the med waiver, which the med
Mm.
waiver is in every state. But a lot of our kids need that kind of long term housing. So, you know, for us, we're temporary housing. That's the hard part about it. We always know at the end of the day, they're not going to be here forever. So most
Mm.
of our kids stay a year, some longer, but it's kind of sad when knowing like eventually they're going to leave, and no matter what they've done since they've been with you, no matter how much stuff they've broken, it still is sad because you grow attached to them and just
Mm.
knowing who they are.
And I had a feeling it was more short term when you said daily rate. I'm like, oh, daily rate. How long are they staying? So, what does that look like? So, you're receiving government funding. So, the kids aren't paying, their families aren't paying, right? It's from
No, it comes from
the
the
agency.
states. Yes, so the state, I don't know how that part works or how they determine a budget, but when the kids come into foster care, you know, you're given a rate. So here it's a little bit easier, I think. You know, you do a budget, at least here, and the budget, you know, shoots you out a number. Let's just say it's 213, maybe it's 450 a day. And then, you know, the agency that you go to, they look at this is the rate. But sometimes you may need more support to be successful with the kids, especially for the kids we
Mm.
take in. Maybe what our rate is not going to be enough to support. Maybe we need to support, you know, a one-on-one. You know, for us, the
Mm.
ratio is really once you go past 5 kids, then you're supposed to legally have, you know, two on staff. We already have two on staff anyway, but sometimes some kids need that one-on-one, which is why we're very, you know, open to the agencies when they're trying to place kids. You have to ask questions about them.
And their needs. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you
Okay.
don't ask, don't tell is kind of how it goes. So you better ask all the questions you could think of.
Oh, okay. That is important. You know, you are not necessarily working in the home helping the kids. You know them and you kind of run it as a business, but you're hiring then people who are doing that work to be with the kids. Are they living in the home with the kids?
Yes, they live with us 24/7. They go to school. Again, my business partner, which is my wife, she handles the hiring.
Okay.
I paperwork, I don't really like to handle as much. I know a little bit, but I'll let her take over that.
Yes, know your strengths. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Let's talk about having employees and having, people kind of run the business. And I know you've had some ups and downs with that, but what's, maybe a tip that you can share when it comes to things you've learned from having to hire and fire different people in these positions?
You need to ask a lot of questions up front. I've
Mm.
learned you find out some things afterwards, but some things you can't necessarily ask in an interview, but there are other ways of asking. You know, you can't necessarily ask about disabilities, but maybe you can ask, is there anything hindering you from doing this job? Which I've kind of
Mm.
learned that needs to be asked because you live and you learn. Some people, you know, our staff, we've been very fortunate and blessed that the staff has stayed, but we've had some that come and they haven't been the best fit for what we do. So the more questions
Mm.
you ask, the better fit that you get.
Yeah.
for the kids.
I love that. I think it is true. I think sometimes people are just like, let me just get a warm body. Oh, they have experience. Oh, they're available. Okay, just throw them in. And it's like, no, it's not
It
always the
is
right fit.
no, and that's time that because I can't just hire anybody and bring them on the following week. They have to take, I think it's like 40-hour classes. They have to do a human trafficking class. And also, our Department of Children and Families, they have to give the final say so of, yes, this person can be hired. So all we can do is just present this to them. And, they're not going to tell us no if the person is a good fit, but you just have to.
It's an expensive mistake then on your part if it's the wrong person.
Yes, because we need staff, and if we can't find staff, staff love overtime, and I'm sure they do. But I like to cut
Yep.
down on overtime if I can, and find staff to come in.
Hey there, it's Isabel from the Young Boss Podcast. And if you are a bookworm like me, then guess what? We have created an incredible book list for you based on all of the amazing recommendations we've received from our incredible guests with over 100 episodes and amazing guests. They drop books all the time in these episodes. And you're probably sitting there driving in your car at your workout and not able to jot them down. Don't worry, we've got your back. Go check out the link in the show notes where you can find the list of all of the amazing book recommendations and get started on your learning. These are self-development. These are growth and mindset books. These are business books, and they're helpful to a young boss at any level. So go check out the book list. And now back to the show. What has been the hardest part about running a business? And it could be anything.
Just knowing how big you want to make this, because I read a lot of books, and I watch these podcasts, and you hear so much about scaling. That's always the word you hear. And it's like, yeah, I want to do this. And then I just keep thinking, I never hear anybody that speaks to, group homes, whether it's for adults or kids, whether it's even like a substance abuse type of home. Nobody's talking about, can you scale this how you hear other businesses scale? So every time I hear it, I'm thinking, this sounds like a good idea, but can I do this? Because in my head, I want to have X amount of houses. I want to have maybe 12, 20 houses within a certain amount of time. But is that feasible? And is that, a good thing to do to grow so fast within this, of course, our industry of group homes?
Yeah. It is interesting because, we do talk, as business owners about scaling all the time. And I think that in the group home world, what I've seen, from the senior living perspective is that the people who do scale, who have 10 or more homes, that's what I'm going to call scaling, right?
Yes.
I think that they have their systems on point. Like it comes down to everything is totally systemized. So each home you walk into almost looks and feels exactly the same. They're following the same rules. The menus are the same. The staff abides by the same things. And it's like really just systemized. And I think it's almost the same experience when you walk into a Chick-fil-A. It's the same every single Chick-fil-A you walk into, right? That is how you scale. And I think in the group home world, people create one home with a totally, specific vibe and culture and whatever, and then another home with a whole nother one. And each home is too different to scale. So I think the way you can is by systems. That's the way you do it, where it's like, this is our cookie cutter process for getting the next home, the acquiring, the renovation, the licensing, the this, the that, and then that's how you can do it. But it is a feat because most people own less than 5 group homes who are in the group home world, I feel like.
That is very true. I met somebody, they had 10 homes, and they actually said they shut them all down, and they only have 2. They said it became too much. And when I hear things like it became too much, I just want to know, well, what was it? What could be done differently? Because I know that there are private equity companies out here that are acquiring people that have, 10, 20 or more homes. If they can do it, I feel I should be able to do it too. So that's that battle that always happens. Like, do I want to do is the question.
It's such a struggle because in the group home world, and I know you know this, it's really easy to become hands-on. It's really easy to dive in and say, let me help and let me be a part of it. And that is the antithesis of being able to scale. Like you have to get as out of it as possible, letting it run without you so that you can focus on the scale. And I think that that becomes a hard thing when someone says it's too much. Always my question is, well, how involved were you? Because, yeah, if you're
Hmm.
super involved in 10 homes, that's a lot.
It is, and we're located in one area of Florida, and we're looking to go about 2.5, 3 hours away, possibly to do like
Okay.
another set of homes. And I keep thinking, I could do two, three here and fill in when needed. But I said, if we're 2, 3 hours away, I said, I really have to have this down pack, systemized, somebody I can count on. I need a super
Yep.
who
Yep.
that I can trust for this.
Yep. And I think it just comes to the layering of systems as well. Like when you're building out that staff, with one home, it's just, okay, great, we've got the two people on shift today, and then I'm the owner, right? But once
Hmm.
there's multiple homes, it's the people on shift and a manager over them, and then me and the people on shift, a manager over them, and then maybe a manager over the two managers, and then there's you. And so it's like more and more people. Now that adds to your bottom line. But when you
Yeah.
have the breadth of the income coming in, then that's how you can, build to afford it. I know what senior housing brings in. What do these care homes typically bring in financially each month?
Oh, each month, I think a bad month would be 60,000. A good month is anywhere 75 and above. And it really depends on who you're taking in, because if we weren't taking the kids we were taking in, I don't know that we will receive the same amount of funding because we have higher needs. We're doing things
Mm,
that you wouldn't do if you had kids that were, just out of Department of Juvenile Justice. Like we're cleaning, showering, we're changing diapers. Changing a 15-year-old's diaper is not fun. So,
mm-hmm.
you want to be able to do extra things for employees, make sure that they're happy, which we're
Yep.
very honest to let them know, like, hey, we may have this happen because you never know who you're going to have. Kids come and go,
Yep.
and their rates also. That means, maybe one kid was X amount, but now you have another kid with less needs. They're not going to receive the same funding. So then you really have to look at your budget of, okay, can we still do what we were doing the months before?
And is that 60 to 75 before you're paying employees and a mortgage and everything like that?
Yes, that is before. Our payroll right now, I would say roughly 17,500 biweekly. So let's just say 35,000 a month. But then you
I'm
have,
assuming it's the biggest expense. Yeah.
oh yeah, it is.
Yep.
Luckily, the first home we own our current group home that we're in, so we have a separate company set up to that pay them the mortgage for
Yep.
that. But that is your biggest insurance does get expensive, especially when you're looking for what we do. A lot of people will not cover you.
Mm.
It is very difficult. I was looking for an insurance. I think it was sexual assault, some type of insurance, and the insurance company wanted not only cameras that were backed up 6 months. They want the cameras that were backed up for up to a year. To find that is very difficult. And you talk to
Yeah.
brokers and you tell them, well, I'm looking for this insurance. Everybody's saying no. So when you find a person that says yes, and then they give you something like this, you're like, well, that means that I have to have different cameras. Like I have 6 months that I can back up, but you're asking for 12. That's not common. Not for what we do.
I know that your homes, are accepting that funding from the agencies, from the government, but that can always be kind of a scary situation if things change suddenly and all of a sudden funding's taken away for different sectors or being moved. And, all of these different things can impact you. So, how do you stay, informed? How do you understand all of this stuff going on? And any tips for people who are also running, group homes that are accepting funding from the government or an agency?
So we have a conference, annual conference with our Department of Children and Families, and that's
Mm,
one way to stay up to what's going on because I think the money comes from what's called a Title 4E budget. And I
okay.
remember hearing that they're going to be auditing the Title 4E budget for the whole state last year. So they're getting on the agencies about making sure that everyone has a budget, which I'm confused. What do you mean does everybody has a budget? Everybody has to have a budget, I thought. Um, when it comes to what's going on now with the changes with Medicaid, one of the reasons why I chose to deal with our Department of Children and Families and not go the med waiver route is because when you're dealing with med waiver, you are billing insurance, you're billing Medicaid.
Mm,
So for this had nothing to do with insurance. So we're not billing an insurance. This is just state funded. So if anything, maybe they might get tighter on a daily rate because some states are kind of tight locked. I was just looking at Georgia, not too just yesterday, and just seeing what their rates are. They're kind of tight on it. I'm like, oh my gosh, what if Florida decides to go that route? But I would
yeah.
just pivot, look back at my budget, and make it work. If I want to receive the same kind of income, I just know I need to open up more homes.
Yep. Yep. Okay. And you are running a nonprofit, right?
Yes, we are a nonprofit currently. We've been talking about possibly switching from that because when you do have a nonprofit, it sounds great because you don't have to pay taxes other than, employee taxes that is paid for. Let me be clear. But the income tax on what's left is not taxed, and there's some great benefits with different things like Amazon, no taxes. We shop a lot at Sam's Club,
Mm,
no taxes there. Microsoft, which I use for Word documents, we have that for free through a grant that they provide to nonprofits.
that's
Those
awesome.
all sound great, and I was excited. But as I start, I have a business coach that I work with, and we've been talking about an exit strategy. Whenever that time comes, you can't technically you can't sell a nonprofit. Nobody owns a
Mm,
nonprofit, and that's just something that I'm glad we're discussing now as we're early on into it. Because if we need to pivot and just start going under another entity, I could sell a for-profit. I'm also going to be paying taxes, which I'm not too excited for, but it'd be more, the payoff would be at the very end to know that you were able to sell this to, another company. Private equity is small in this world. It's not as big as another industry that I was in before, but there are definitely some big players in this that are buying out, people that have 20 homes and they're exiting, but they're also it takes a lot of planning.
yeah. Yep. You have to have that prep before obviously from selling another business. Sometimes it could take years to get things all aligned and in order.
Yes, and it's I already know having a CPA. That's why it's very important because I learned that the hard way going through due diligence in the past of how things should have been. So that's why I'm
Mm,
always happy I learned a hard lesson already.
yep. There you go. All right, I want to talk about just your journey as a business owner a little bit and maybe ask you a couple rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Do you prefer to grow slow or fast?
Uh, I'll say in the middle. Right now, my brain is on fast after reading a book. It's leaning towards fast right now.
Okay, let me ask that. What's one book or podcast everybody needs to listen to or read?
Outside of your podcast, I would say Social Proof is a podcast that I love to listen to. Book wise, I just finished reading The Science of Scaling. With
Mm,
a lot of people are familiar with Dr. Benjamin Hardy, so
yep.
he has that book with another co-author. That is definitely a book if you're wanting to scale to read that to understand the framework it takes.
Yep. I love it. Well, we will add that to the book list so everyone can find
Okay,
it in the show notes. Okay, raise money or bootstrap?
Bootstrap.
And is that
Uh,
how you got into your second business?
That is, we took course at the last business to help get us started, which is one of the reasons why we were able to buy the house that we have.
Mm,
Um, I know when you start taking money from other people, you better be looking to really scale because they have a X amount of time they want their money back, usually within 3 years if you're dealing with
yeah.
private equity. So they're not just giving you a small amount of money; they're looking for a big return.
Yep. Yep. Totally. Describe your business in one word.
compassionate.
I love that. I really like what you're doing. I think it's amazing. And in our industry, I also feel we use the phrase do good and do well. You can cash flow, but you can feel good about it. You're providing a service that not everybody else is. And I think with you, it's even that times 10, These kids really need you. And if they didn't have you, who knows where they would be and where they'd be living and what their situation is. So, I hope you feel good about yourself every night that you go to bed, because you really are making a difference in the world. And not a lot of people can say that.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Where do you see, we've talked a lot about scaling, so where do you see your business, yourself in like the next 5-10 years?
Within 10 years, for sure, I want to have at least 10 or 12 homes. Within the next 5 years, after reading that book I read, I said, I'm thinking, can I have 12 homes within 3 years? So just trying to see, that's where I see myself. If I close my eyes now and I put all my fear aside, then I say, okay, 12 homes, 3 years. That's what I would like to say. I don't know if that would happen, but we'll see.
Yeah. We haven't called it what it is, imposter syndrome, but I do think you've mentioned a couple of times, like, you are a little fearful of that, of scaling, and what do those next steps look like? How do you deal with that fear? How do you live with that and still move forward?
I've gotten comfortable with that feeling, because I know when it creeps in, it's always when I'm trying to do something new. So I guess I've been 5 years just about with entrepreneurship. So you just get used to it. And I'm able to tell that, okay, even starting the first business, I was terrified to do it, and just to know, okay, once I got it started, it wasn't that bad. I learned a lot. So just knowing yourself and just knowing that feeling that you feel, it's normal. I guess if you weren't afraid, I guess you'd probably be kind of worried about yourself.
Yes, it's true. Are there is there a big tip you want to share with any of our listeners here today? We've got young bosses, young entrepreneurs, people who are just starting in business, who've owned businesses for a while. What do you want to share with them?
For people that want to get into this, and something that I've learned, because I struggled, the biggest thing I think is getting a house, because you can always find funding and money. But we struggled to get the house until I started with a coach that's consulting for a behavioral health real estate company. Never heard of that before. And that's how we were able to get the second home, was working with them. I found the house, they purchased. So when people talk to me and say, well, I can't get the house, I want people to know, keep looking. There are people out here that will purchase the real estate for you and rent it back. You have to show that you have the funds, but that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest discourager I hear from people when I talk to them, why they don't want to step into this world of any kind of group home.
Yep. I love it. Well, you have shared a ton of gems here today. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm really grateful to have you, and grateful to know someone like you who is doing such an impactful business in our world. I wish you nothing but blessings into the future, and just want to thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Young Boss. Be sure to like, share, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, your youth is your power.